WCLN 1170 Radio and Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by J.W. Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know is on the air. It's Tuesday. Each and every Tuesday at 2:30, we come to you, Star Communications Channel 16, WCLN Radio. There's a replay at 7 p.m. Tuesday, Thursday. We look forward to seeing you each and every week. Our guest today is someone that when I call her name, or if you're already seeing her, not on the radio, if you're watching on TV, you know who I'm talking about. And Becky Spell Vann. Becky, you've been with us before. In fact, last year, when we talked, there was a number of issues that I think were very important. I got a lot of positive feedback on. This year, 2021, and we're talking about some of those same things, but I want to remind folks, we're going to be talking about the Learning Station. We're going to be talking about Tim's Gifts. But up front, Becky, one of the things that you have started back in 2012 was a program called Rise Up, which was an interesting lead-in when I first heard that. But each year since 2012, it's brought a whole new kind of challenge for folks. Yes. I want to open with that, and then we've got so much other stuff to talk about. But let's open with Rise Up and tell us what's going on with that in this multi-year, should I say, of a pandemic.
Thank you, JW. Rise Up began with the seed that was sown was in Charlotte, North Carolina, at a healing revival in 2008. And as I stood in that huge Coliseum, God just spoke to my heart and said, do this at home. I didn't understand, but it took a year of praying about it and just following His lead. So we started the first one, as you said, in 2011, I think it was, 2011. And each year we call it Rise Up, and we put an R word with it. That just seemed what it was supposed to be. It's been Rise Up, Renew, Rise Up, Reach Out, Rise Up, Refresh. Last year it was Refuel when we honored the firemen. And this year we had decided not to have Rise Up, JW. In the fall, we make our plans for the following year. We secured the date for our golf tournament. The Rise Up was going to be in February, but because of COVID, Diane, Jennifer, and I decided maybe we didn't need to do it this year. So we canceled it. But the week after Christmas, when my grandson had COVID, we'd been together at Christmas, and I was quarantined. God put on my heart, will you cancel everything for me? And people's safety is our utmost concern. And I thought, but Lord, we can't do it this year. Too many things, there's too much danger in gathering as a group. If you want it, then show it. And He began to say, you can do this. And it's through what we're doing here today with technology, FaceTime, Facebook. So we started planning, and we are calling this year's Rise Up, Remember. Remember those in need. There are a lot of people in need. It's got a whole different format. E.C. Maddox and I met in Carly C's in November, JW. And I told him, I said, E.C., I want you to be in prayer about something. We've canceled Rise Up, but I'm not so sure we were supposed to. That was in November. E.C. said, if you change your mind, give me a call. I called him the first week of January. He said, you can use our church. Long story short, we've actually got a praise team. Even Mitchell Brewington, who's here with us today, their praise team is coming. It's going to be live on March 21st at 6 p.m. All the youth groups, churches, individuals can tune in. So it's an even better thing this year, JW. It's for everybody. And the main thing we're focusing on in Sampson County is making us together stronger, is doing good deeds. And that's actually what I wanted to do today. I have brought something for you and Chris and Mitchell. The children did these bags of popcorn, and to share with people to let them know about it, we carry these around to businesses and give them to people. And on the back it has a Gmail, riseuptimsgift@gmail.com. So if people would like to do a good deed, they don't even have to include their name. They can do a good deed and send it to that Gmail account or drop it off at the Learning Station or Tim's Gift. And we are hoping for 1,000 good deeds to be done in this county and city before March 21st.
Pastor Maddox, of course, has been a guest on this show before and is always engaged in the community, and that's a growing church out there at Pine Ridge. What kind of volume of folks are you looking for? What are you prepared for? Oftentimes these events you have ends up with hundreds of people, if not thousands.
Well,
what are you thinking may happen?
At Mount Vernon on Sunday night when it will be aired, it will only be the people who are closely involved. The praise team, the people who will be sharing, will be giving a Good Samaritan trophy that night, and the Outstanding Youth Group trophy will be passed along to another church, and it will be the team from Mount Vernon who will actually work the sound and make it happen.
So in essence, it'll be a virtual event, but you'll have a pretty big crowd, just the folks that's participating.
Right. We're hoping that people will tune in, and it's going to be a bigger crowd than ever. All the youth groups who either meet virtual, the ones who meet at their churches or in a home, Domino's has partnered with Tim's Gift. We are doing a meal for them. They will get pizzas, brownies delivered to their church or wherever they are meeting. They are a very vital part of this. So we're just hoping that we can get the passion going to make this happen, because many groups have not been meeting. They've also been meeting virtual. So you don't have to be present. You can stay at home in your pajamas and watch it on, Facebook and be a part of it.
When you're doing it this year, and the message you're pushing forward this year will be amplified through social media. So are you looking at something that will be replicated? For example, it'll not only be aired at that particular date and time, but maybe later, if somebody misses it, can they still go back somewhere and pick that up?
That's in the works. We have a sister church to Holly Grove, which is Olive Grove Church, and Pastor Russ, who was also in my 7th grade class as Mitchell was, he has agreed to work with us, and right now we're still planning and just trusting God that it can go out and be shown more times, that people can see it. We're hoping that it's going to be a real blessing, not only for the people in Sampson County, but beyond.
I think one of the things that we want people to remember is this March 21st date, and try to get that in during that time. And of course, we'll post this on the screen as well during our conversation for folks to jot that down. If they want to reach you, and maybe they have something they want to contribute, or they think it might be important for you to air that day, can they reach to you and say, hey, we've got this particular thing or that particular thing we'd like to see aired?
Yes, they can.
How do they do that?
They can stop by Tim's Gift on Tuesday or Wednesday. We are open from 9 to 5. They can come by Monday through Friday. I'm at the learning station from about 6 in the morning until 6 at night. I welcome them to come by. They can call, email, and they can go to our website at Tim's Gift and find out all the information, or just give us a call at the learning station. We would be happy to talk with them. The children are also excited about this. They're a big part of it, and they're doing good deeds. To begin with, we ask for people to include their names. That doesn't even have to happen. If they just want to send in good deeds, they can send them to riseuptimsgift@gmail.com and put something they've done to bless somebody.
Another thing you've got going on too is with the Kiwanis Club. They've really decided to be bold and diverse this year and do a pancake breakfast, I understand.
That's right.
With sausage. Yes. But it's not a come-in, sit-down event.
Right. It's not the social event of Clinton. And believe me, we have gone back and forth with this, and we almost canceled. But we decided it would be very important to the community right now, sort of a shot in the arm. We can do this. So we're pulling together. It will be at Clinton High School this year, a drive-through only. It's next Friday and Saturday. On Friday, they can come, and if they don't have tickets, they can buy them when they come through. The line will be the car riders line at Clinton High School. They'll go right through. We'll have hot pancakes. We've already got it worked out for special bags where they'll stay hot. So the club has pulled together, and we're hoping that the community will support this and come out and make this a great event, because all of the proceeds from this go back to the county and city schools.
Something I'm sure you've thought of. You know, we're going through a crisis now with this pandemic. We're going through situations where folks have been out of work. That in many cases, not only rent they can't pay, but just food alone. Schools have been packing food for children and that kind of thing. Would it not be a great idea for folks to think about just buying some tickets and giving to people, say, look, all you got to do is drive through and pick up your breakfast?
That's right. It's what we would love for people to do. And we have plenty of tickets. They can call the Learning Station. Ann Wicke at the Methodist Church is our president this year, and we have plenty of tickets. In fact, we've seen a lull in ticket buying. And what I've done at the Learning Station is given the children a ticket and emailed the parents and said, would you buy tickets for your family? But giving away the tickets is it's a mission opportunity. A lot of people would love to have a ticket to go out. They don't have to get out of their vehicle. They drive through, we hand them the plates, and they can go home and enjoy a good meal.
And I think one of the things that strikes me with that is when I look at the number of churches in the county, and we're very blessed that we've got as many steeples as we do, but churches could certainly buy 10, 15, 25 tickets and give to folks in the communities. It's just if it's 2 or 3 at a time, it would help the church involve people more in their church activity, plus the church is giving you something that's a nutritional benefit to you.
It's true, because ticket selling this year has met a lot of obstacles, as have other things during this pandemic, JW, because going out to people and in groups to try to sell tickets has been a challenge. So we would love for that to happen. If churches would like to get involved, or someone could buy tickets and donate to the food bank. They could pass the tickets out to people who would love to go by and get a plate. But time is of essence, because it is next weekend. It's Friday from 5:30 till 7:30, and Saturday morning from 6:30 to 9.
So they got time to kind of think about what's going on, but they need to go ahead and plan and be prepared. And all they got to do is drive to Clinton High School during the dates and times that you said. It'll be posted, of course, on this site, and we'll try to help you get that information out. We certainly support all the civic clubs here in the area, and particularly Kiwanis and Rotary and Lions. And I don't want to start because I'll miss somebody, but it's just it's one of those things that's giving back to the community, and you can see your dollars benefiting. So as we go forward, we got a number of other issues we're going to talk about. We're going to go to break here in just a minute. I want to kind of give folks a little teaser. Coming back, we're going to talk a bit about the Learning Station, Tim's gift, the impact of that, and how it's affecting your life as a business going forward. The whole content of today's show builds itself around that. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. We're going to take a break. Stay tuned.
Experiencing slow internet? If you have a fast internet package, the problem is most likely your wireless router. With more devices using Wi-Fi, your wireless router may not be able to deliver the speed and coverage you need. We now have the leading solution to enhance your internet experience. Using small devices in a mesh network, these Wi-Fi appliances cover just about any size home so that all your devices can operate to their fullest potential. Whole home Wi-Fi from Star Communications. Get the most out of your internet connection.
Welcome back. I want to thank you for being with us today. We Should Know's on there. We're talking with Becky Spell Vann. Becky, we're talking about a lot of stuff, and as a lot of folks know you, and they know the things that you're involved in, the Learning Station, Tim's Gift, Rise Up, you name it, and your footprint is there. And one of the things we were talking about as we went to break was the Kiwanis pancake breakfast. Right. Well, the important thing is to kind of get the dates straightened out. I want to kind of go back because we put out some dates, and depending on the airing of this show being the 23rd, not the 2nd of March, to 23rd. So airing the 23rd, as people are hearing this, the pancake breakfast is this coming weekend based on March 23rd. Is that correct?
It is. It will be February 27th and 8th, next Friday night, and next Saturday morning, if we say next week.
That's right. Okay, so you can kind of get that in gear, but that also doesn't displace our conversation about the importance of churches and other organizations that want to just buy $100 or so worth of tickets and give them to people that really need a decent meal.
And there would still be time. This is aired on Tuesday of the week of the Pancake Feast. Okay. So if a church would call, and we'll be glad to go around to churches before then and actually offer to do that, then they could give out tickets to people.
And that would go for businesses as well. Mm-hmm. And I think it would be a kind of a way to do what you do so well, is show love and concern for your community.
Well, we're called to do that, to love one another.
Absolutely. So this segment, I wanted to kind of get into a little bit about the things that folks know you, that you've been involved in for some time, and that's the Learning Station, and that's Tim's Gifts. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, Tim's Gifts goes back to a fellow by the name of Tim Spell, mm-hmm. and there's both with Learning Station and Tim's Gifts, a huge, I guess, a huge history there. But my question is about how these two businesses are and how they're surviving this global pandemic, and what kind of impact it has had on the kinds of things that you do for and within the community.
Well, first and foremost, JW, I would like to say that it is by the grace of God that both of those businesses are there, the ministry, and they're both actually ministries. God has shown me that. And I don't take any credit except that I have tried to be obedient to God. Since I was a little girl, I've loved Him and accepted Him at age 12, and my life has just been so full of love for Him, but a good time. Mm-hmm. And I think many people miss that because He wants us to enjoy what we do. And I truly enjoy working and serving there. So I give God the glory for that because He started both of them. He opened the door for Tim to purchase that building in 1980. And then in 1990, we purchased the building from Mr. Turlington and started the Learning Station.
Now, they're side by side.
Side by side.
On Northeast Boulevard.
Mm-hmm. And that was never in our plan, but it was in God's plan. And through the years, I've seen how everything that's happened has been a puzzle piece that God has put together. But He doesn't just do that for me or for JW here with We Should Know. I mean, you can tell about how God's worked in your life. Mm-hmm. Each of us can. He does it for anybody. We just have to trust in Him. And when sadness and sorrow comes into our life, we can't cower down in fear. When a pandemic comes, we can't stop. We've got to keep going and keep trusting God. And that's what He's shown me through the years as we've built the businesses there. And we've kept God first.
One of the things that when you came in the studio today, you of course had your mask on, and we yes. social distance here. Mm-hmm. But I heard you mention that you had to wear that mask because of the children, first and foremost. Has that affected at the Learning Station? You might explain to folks what you do there with children. What do you see in children's minds as they try to process this whole COVID thing? How does it impact their social dynamic?
It greatly affects them, but the joy that I have now, which I thought was going to be a burden, JW, because our schedule at the Learning Station for 30 years has been 3:30 to 5:30, an after-school program, and then the summer program. Last March, it changed drastically. It became 7:30 to 5:30 every day with virtual students and those that were not in school. And I asked God, what will we do with these children? Because the amount of work that they have to do, most of them can get it done in maybe an hour, sometimes 2. And then you have the rest of the day left. And what I would wake up at night and think about it. And so I just gave it to God and said, I want these children to be encouraged, because many of them would say, we don't want to wear masks. We don't want it to be like this. And I watched them becoming very comfortable in a COVID season. Many of them it would be difficult to see what their schoolwork was. So through this whole process, God opened doors to serve and share. We are busy every day. We go out in the community. We don't go inside homes. We drop off blessing baskets at the doorsteps or the porches of people. We go to downtown businesses and the children go in with masks and they pray with people. They've learned that if they wear the mask, it's not so much protecting them as the other people. And I've had to be an example of that. I don't like to wear masks any more than anybody else does. But if it is something that we can help protect and be an example, then we do it. And I think instead of grumbling about the season that we're in, if we show gratitude that we're here, and this is a special season, and we have every opportunity that we can do even more for God our Father, if we will just trust Him and listen, He will guide us, just like with those children. And believe me, when you've got a little flock of children of different ages and you're like, what can we do? Their joy comes from helping other people. I watch them pray with people, and I don't even have to get involved. We just have to lead them, and they're the ones, they are taking this ministry, and God is growing it.
Becky, for people that are listening to this either on radio or they're watching it on Channel 16 Star Communications, and they're watching us today, and they may not be familiar with the Learning Station in the sense that the depth of what you've been doing for all these years. Tell us about the age group that you focus on, why those children may be at the Learning Station versus somewhere else. If somebody has a child and they think, well, maybe I'd like to have my child involved in that. Kind of give us a 101 of the Learning Station. Okay.
Well, the Learning Station began when the building beside Tim's insurance office came for sale, and we were trying to figure out what to do with it. And God just opened the door for a daycare. Now, on that busy street, 701, that didn't seem like a very wise decision. But God had plans, and He's worked it out. We've been there now 31 years. We take school-age children, JW, any child from kindergarten through 8th grade. And it's a very personal. We work together in groups. They do, Bible is a very important part of our day. They keep a journal every day. They're involved in more than just the schoolwork. So we try to mix and make it a fun day. We do fun activities. We get out of the bubble, so to speak, because many of us have become stuck in a place of safety where we don't want to get out and mesh with people. But I believe God expects us to keep sharing and showing that we care. So we're just a place where we do homework, we do God's work the way He sends it. He's a very important part of our day.
So basically, and I'll ask these questions so I can get everybody to understand where we're at here. This is not a private school nor a charter school. You're basically covering those children when parents or guardians are not there.
That's right.
You're making sure their lives and their, I say, mental well-being is nurtured.
Yes, that's exactly what we're doing. It's in His hands, and He provides every day. His mercies are new every morning, and believe me, I need it, because it's not that it's an easy job, but when we give it to Him, He takes care of the burdens, and it becomes a blessing. I'm very blessed, JW.
Well, it seems that is that opportunity for a person to be able to have their child not Tim's Gift, but the Learning Station would be a great opportunity, especially as people try to work through this pandemic and schools are going through all these scheduling situations and some days in, some days out. Oftentimes I hear parents say, I don't have any, what am I going to do with my child? I've got a full-time job. Both parents work, and now they're not in school, so where does the child go? Well, of course, if you don't have grandparents, then it's kind of, it gets to that point. Do you see a lot more folks coming to you saying, can my child stay here from a certain period of time?
We do, but we keep our numbers small. In years past, we had a larger number of children, and I have a smaller number now. We average around 20 children, and we find that that's a good number to work with and do what we do, because if we had a greater number, we couldn't go out and do the visitation like we do. But it's really amazing what happens there. And we have many great daycares in this area where parents can put their children. And we've had some criticism that the faith part is such an integral part of what we do. And I've had people question that and say, aren't you afraid that people would be maybe offended that that's such an important part? And I said, oh no. God wants first place. And when we keep Him first place in what we're doing, He'll work out all the kinks and struggles that we have, and He'll make it a wonderful opportunity. And that's what I've seen Him do in my life.
So if the Learning Station, now how many children do you have as this show airs today?
We actually have 24.
So you're actually over capacity.
Yes, we are.
And that can be kind of fortunate or unfortunate, I guess.
Well, we've had 50 to 60 children in the past, in our early days when we started. But the number's not, being a greater number is not always what is the best thing. It's according to the situation. And with space, and now with COVID, I know why we sized down, because we're exactly, I believe, what He wants us to be.
And that kind of helps you move forward with the number of people you got, kind of keeping that focus on around 20, as you just pointed out.
Right.
Well, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and there's so many things I want to try to get in today, but I want to touch also on Tim's gift when we come back and kind of give folks a little bit of teaser as I go to break here. That's a whole dynamic organization within itself. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned. Call a friend. We Should Know is on there. We're going to be talking about Tim's gift. We're talking about things that affect your life and giving that really affects you in a time of need.
Many things have been stolen away during this time of uncertainty. No crowds to cheer on their favorite teams. Applause and pageantry have been stripped away. Thieves are looking to make your home empty and silent. Star Communications has the answer you are looking for. Security by Star. Automation and affordability along with friendly service makes for a security choice that is sure to keep your family cheering.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know's on the air Tuesday, each and every Tuesday at 2:30. We're talking with Becky Spell Vann. Becky, again, thank you for being with us today. Time always goes fast when we're talking. We kind of covered the learning station, the last segment, and how folks can get up with you and what that is. And it seems to me you're at capacity now at the learning station. But I want to try to get in this whole aspect of Tim's gift, which is just adjacent to the learning station. Tim's Gifts was an idea that came to fruition. We're talking decades ago.
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of hard sometimes when I think about it, but when I go by there and I look, I think, wow, that's part of the landscape. Mm-hmm. You know, and if it were gone, it would be, wow, what just happened here? How did that happen, and what kind of benefit, and what was the benefactor piece of that? As that came together, what were you led to do, should I say?
Well, an important part of all of it was after Tim passed away in 2007 and after James, my second husband, passed away in 2014. When Tim passed away, our home was full of medical equipment and supplies, packed. I didn't know what to do with them. No one wanted them. And when I was going to just take them honestly to the dump, God put on my heart, don't throw away these things. One day will come when my children will cherish leftovers. And as hard as that was to understand, I held on to them, JW. And then 2 months later, I had colon cancer and went through that. And all the while in that season, God was putting pieces together, because a group in the county called the Prayer Connection that meets every Tuesday night, I felt led to call them to pray with me in my cancer. So I traveled that one Tuesday night out to their meeting, little house right down 421. I'll never forget it, JW. And when I went in that home, it was filled with precious people that accepted me and greeted me and prayed over me. And that was different for me. I was prayed over. And when the prayer was over, I was actually on the floor, and a little lady named Miss Brewington came, and she put her sweater over me, and she looked at me and said, "You'll go home tomorrow." And I looked at her, and we sat down and talked, and I said, "Ma'am, you don't understand. They're doing surgery in the morning at 7 o'clock at Chapel Hill." JW, my younger son, took me there. They put me to sleep and prepared me for surgery. And when I awoke, he was grinning like a possum. He said, "Mom, they didn't do surgery. The doctors disagreed on the prognosis." That was the first puzzle piece where God was really showing me what was happening. So 4 months later, I started Tim's Gift because Prayer Connection sent me a card during that time with $50 in it and said, "Becky, this is to start your ministry." JW, I hadn't thought about a ministry. I just knew that I was not supposed to get rid of that medical equipment. And from there, it was just like a chain reaction. God began to put piece after piece in place. But I credit those precious friends that I cherish to this day. Many of them have gone on to be with Jesus, but that's still a very important part of this community, prayer. So I credit prayer with that. And Tim's Gift started very, very meekly in that building where Tim had insurance for 30-some years, just going to give out medical equipment to help people. That was the whole thing. "Becky, don't take a salary." I don't. And don't charge for anything. Just give it out and I will give it back. And to begin with, it was hard to see how that would work. We had very meager beginnings, but people began to hear about it. And then my son Cameron gave 1 year, 2009, he worked with me there to help secure the 501c3 and get everything in place. And I remember one day he called me in his office and he said, "Mother, I think those children next door will be a part of Tim's gift. And can I tell you, JW, I said, son, I don't see how that could happen. Sometimes things come to us and it seems so far-fetched when it's really in God's plans. And it was many years later that began happening. Actually, it was a decade later. And after James passed away, God sent him to me through Tim's gift. I went to a church out in the county for a service, and I walked in and there was a father working in the little library there at the Journey. He had 4 children at the learning station with me. I walked over to him and I said, I just want to tell you that I'm closing the learning station. And he reached out and took my hand and he said, Mr. Menendez, he said, you can't do that. And I said, no, I'm tired. I'm just tired. Well, he reached down and pulled out a little pamphlet, JW, and on the front of it, it had a suitcase, that TV program Deal, where you would open a suitcase, and on the front it said, God's deal. He said, Becky, that's not your decision. That's God's. You give it to God. So I've still got that pamphlet that he gave me that day. It's in my prayer room, and I look at it just about every day and remember that, because I was ready to give up. I was tired, and I think we all get there in our journeys. But that is why Tim's gift is flourishing today, I believe, and the learning station, because God showed me that he would send people to help. Sometimes we try to do it ourselves. He sent people. He sent a blind girl named Jennifer, and I could not see how she would be an attribute, but she is amazing what she can do. The Blind Association actually came and visited with me and said, if you will hire her, we will pay her salary for the first 3 months to show you what she can do. She's amazing. She's been with us now 12 years.
I was thinking we had her on the show.
Yes.
I think you and Jennifer came on right after you hired her.
Right.
It's probably been,
a long time.
About
Yes.
9 years ago, 8 or 9.
So it's God. It is not. I was ready to quit. I was sad. I was like, Lord, I felt like the woman that in the Bible where she prayed for a child and Elijah went by, and she had a child and then the child was about to die, and she said, Lord, why would you give me this? And many times I think we feel that way. We get bitter or get stuck in grieving, and we can't do that because God needs us to be giving him our best. So I just had a whole different mindset, but it was other people who came to me and spoke words that I know came from God.
So Tim's gift is a way, you said, of giving back spiritual, but it's also a way of actual equipment and medical supplies. Is that the kind of thing that goes on there? So somebody needs, I don't know, a porta potty or whatever, they might can find it at Tim's gift.
Whatever. And now the word is out. Churches are very supportive. We have 8 churches in this area that now donate quarterly to Tim's gift. And now through the Hope Project Golf Tournament, we are able to help with medical bills, with medicines, with monetary needs that someone might have. So God is growing it, and it's just amazing to watch it happen.
So in essence, we kind of look at things that people in need, for a lot of folks, they say, well, we got to figure out another government program. You've kind of got a program here that really doesn't involve the government, that people and the goodness of their heart have come together and said, we're willing to reach out and help folks, and we don't need a huge bureaucracy to make that happen.
No, we don't. And it's in and out, JW, in and out. It is amazing. I could stay here with you for a week and tell you, but I know people say, well, we don't want to hear all those stories, but I'm so excited because there is a story to tell, and Jesus was the greatest storyteller that ever lived. He told stories that people could understand, and there are stories of how people come and they have a need, and the very next day someone will come in. We just had a prominent businesswoman in the community. Her husband, in fact, it was Burl, when Burl passed away, and he had a wonderful lift chair and some other things. And Connie called and said, Becky, I wanted to donate this, but can you help me find the right place for it to go? The very next day, we had someone in in the community that needed exactly what she called about the day before. It was just transported from her home to their home. It didn't even come to Tim's gift. And he works that out. It's amazing to see how God connects. We talked about connections earlier, and that's what it's all about. This wouldn't work if it were not for that. The very prophecy that Cameron gave in 2009, I've witnessed come true in the last few years. He also said, Mom, we've got too many people and businesses in Clinton that work in isolation. We need to connect. We need to get all the hospices to pull together and not to try to say, well, we want this many. We don't want to share what we're doing. We need to share. We need to work. Our slogan is what? Sampson, together strong. Well, to be that, we've got to truly work together and make it happen. And we can do that. Churches can work together. We need to realize that we're in a battle, JW. I believe we're seeing birth pains of end times. And if we don't start pulling together and standing up for God and His way and His word, we're going to be overshadowed by the evil that the devil is surely doing his part, because he knows his time is short.
Becky, do you interact? I had the folks on with Sampson Partners, and we talked about a lot of things they were doing. Do you interact with other agencies like that to share resources, or if somebody's looking something, if you don't have it, you might could transfer them over, or pick up the phone and call and say, I have a person that needs this help, or what have you?
Yes, we do now. That's not been true in the past, but now we're seeing all agencies come together. Sampson Partners, You Care, so many of them. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a huge donation of things that we could not use. These supplies were perfect for You Care. So through a connection, we called, and the lady came over, and she was so joyful. She said, we would love to partner with you. And what's happened in the last 2 weeks has been amazing. But we just didn't make that connection earlier. Sampson Partners, we donate to them. They donate medical supplies and goods to us, because that's not what they actually deal with there. So what we're seeing now is a true pulling together of people, churches, organizations, civic clubs in the community. And it's amazing what God can do in this place where we love to live. And that's our little motto at my church. Pastor Ray gave us all stickers to go on our cars or somewhere. It says, we love where we live. And I read something this week. We lost a great icon this week in radio, and he always said you need to love where you live, because if you hate living where you are, you're not going to be an asset. We need to get our love back for America and for God. We're
going to take another break, and we're going to come back. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming up on our next break. I want to encourage you to stay with us for our last segment. We'll be back in just a few minutes. We're going to talk about kind of a lot of issues facing you in your life and in our society today, and kind of get Becky's comment on that and her perspective. We'll be back in one moment. Stay tuned.
To get the most out of your electronic devices, you need a strong internet connection and a protected home Wi-Fi network. You need high-speed internet from Star. Star has the fastest, most affordable high-speed internet service available for all your devices. We have no long-term contracts or high-pressure sales. Our service speaks for itself, and switching is hassle-free. We take care of everything with free installation from a local company. High-speed internet from Star. Internet at the speed of life.
Welcome back. I want to thank you for being with us today. We're coming up on our last segment. Remember, you can reach us via email at weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. That's weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. You can also, if you're one of those folks that like to write us a little card or a note or what have you, send it to Post Office Box 1482, Clinton, North Carolina 28328, and I will get that. Love your comments. Very much appreciate positive support, negative things you'd like to see us do. We just love to hear from you. You are the reason we're here. We communicate with you each and every week at 2:30, and certainly a replay at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, Thursday, Star TV Channel 16. The show's always uploaded to Facebook, social media platforms, YouTube, those kinds of things, so you can pick it up there as well. We want to welcome you back and also welcome our guest back today. And Becky Spell Vann has been, Becky, you've been with us a number of times,
Yes,
and we've talked about so many things. I want to take this last segment to talk about the big picture and kind of go where you feel we know you need to, maybe think we need to go, that kind of thing. Off air, we were talking earlier, and I mentioned to you, or I posed a question to you, do you know when you become not a member of the flock and you become a shepherd? And I answered that question from my perspective that you had become a shepherd. Now, when that happened, I don't know, but you do a lot of things in the community. I know I've seen you at my church. Many people that's watching today are church people, and they've probably seen you at their church, and they know you're doing a lot of things in the community. We are, right now, as we're sitting here speaking, I think undoubtedly seem to be pulled apart as a society. We seem to be somewhat disenfranchised. We seem to be somewhat accusatory of different groups or people that think different than we do. We also seem to be people that sometimes see ourselves as victims and not part of the solution. From your role and my vision of you as a shepherd, help us understand what we need to be doing and how we need to be acting in such a society that seems to be at chaos. And it's not just the pandemic, but it's our belief in the way certain things or what government is doing or not doing. And even if we're not careful, it can trickle down into our church life as well.
Yes, it can. Well, JW, a perfect example is yesterday we were doing our journal with the children at the learning station, and I heard one little girl who was in 7th grade, she was trying to find Peter in the Bible, and she couldn't find the book. And I heard her say to the friend beside her, I don't have a Bible. And several of those students that we're getting now, that when we do this activity with them, they are not familiar with it. Because if you think back when we were growing up, we had Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, we had BYW. We had many activities where the Bible was a very important part of our lives. But I believe in Revelation, when the letters were sent to the churches, one thing that I wrote about years ago was, what kind of letter would we get? What kind of letter would our church get? What would we get as individual? What kind of letter would Paul have written to us? And the church at Ephesus, they said, but we've done very well. We're outreaching, we're doing all these things. And he said, but I've got one thing against you. You've lost your first love. And I think that sums it all up. We don't have God first place in our society, in our nation. Mm-hmm. We have degraded Him. We have demoralized. We've put God down. We've taken Him from our schools. We've taken Him from places where God wants to be. He's not our first love anymore, JW. And we're truly seeing now the effects of that. So our children have to be trained and taught, and we have to put Him first again. And then He will hear our cries when we repent, and He will heal our nation. It is so simple, but we're making it so complicated.
Do you feel that there's some kind of design or an act of confusion that is going on, almost like a subterfuge that's occurring about us that causes us not to occasionally just sit down and look at folks that maybe we disagree with on principle or on the delivery of a particular message, and we might disagree with, but yet we come together on the core issue? Have we lost the core issue, or is it just the peripheral of that particular question?
Well, there's so many dynamics to that. We can look at that and we could talk about that for days. But the simple thing is, many people in America today are cowering in fear instead of standing in faith. And reason to be in many cases, because we see that some people are being made scapegoats for standing up for their faith. But God says He will protect us, and I believe that with all my heart. It doesn't mean we won't have hardships and go through persecution, but we've not really gone through any persecution. It's been very easy for us to go to church, worship, and do things. But where have we put it on our to-do list? Is it first, or is it the bottom, and we work Him in? So I believe that we have chosen to sit on the fence, to be politically correct, We don't want to stir anything up. We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings because it could affect your job. It could affect your stance in the community. I think we have been so concerned about that we have lost the passion for Christ. And that's what He wants. He will take care of us. But as a nation, we also have people that don't love God and don't love America. And there's control of what we're using today to make this go out, our social media. We are not sure what we see, if it is real or if it is fake. We are not sure what we're being told. And that's when we have to truly rely on the Holy Spirit. And when we have a close walk with God, He will speak to our hearts and He will guide us. I believe with all my heart, He wants to heal our land and see us turn back to Him. But we've got to make the changes. I think we've been putting time out, JW. COVID's been a time out. I don't think it's made a great big difference. It has in some things. We wear masks now and we do other things for protection. But God wants us to honor Him. And there are enough Christians and enough people in this nation that love Him that if we unite in love, we can make a difference.
One of the things that struck me as you mentioned that, and somebody was in a conversation the other day, mentioned the reality that oftentimes if you're talking to folks, you can tell what TV channel they listen to by the conversation, where the conversation led, whether it's right or left or what have you. Is that part of the situation that we focus too much on one side of an issue and not even consider the other side, whether it's left or right or in the middle? Is that part of the issue?
I believe it is, but we have to remember that when Jesus lived, there was just as much political upheaval as there is today. It just wasn't broadcast all over the world. He had dilemmas that He had to face, and He did not give in to the pressure, even when they tried to trick Him. And there was deception then, just like there is today in our government. But what did He say and do when they brought Him the woman who they accused of adultery? He didn't rant and rave and go crazy. Now, He turned the tables over in the temple courtyard, but He had reason. They were making a mockery of His Father's house. Just like David took a stance, and of all people, the little shepherd boy that they thought could do nothing. And all the mighty warriors that were there wouldn't face Goliath. People aren't willing today to stand up and share their voice because they fear they might face consequences. And it's real. It is happening in America. Censorship, things that where we talk about God, it's being taken down. So yes, we're living in a time, but we've got to be like David and stand up and say, you will not mock my God. Because He created us all. He's in charge, and He wins in the end. And it's time for us to put our faith in Him and shine as Christians. And then we will see what God can do.
I mentioned off air earlier when we were talking before we started today, minister at late 1800s, early 1900s, Samuel Batten, an article that I was reading that he wrote, which talked about Christianity from the sense of the person, the individual, and our personal conscience, what we see as right and wrong. It seems to be from some of his commentary that we lean heavily on the government or whether we fit in a certain group to determine our consciousness. And his commentary was more in the sense that that's a principal reality that comes from God rather than a group, rather than government, rather than education.
Right.
And if we violate that, then we get, quote, out of kilter.
Right. Well, and we have reason. We have to be careful. We have to use a divine wisdom that God will give us. He will open doors that nobody can for us to have those opportunities, and that's what I've seen Him do in my life. But He can close them too if we get off kilter. But if we think about how Jesus reacted, He didn't go against the government in the wrong way and protest and use these. He simply said to them that day when He knelt in the sand, and He said, if you are without sin, cast the first stone. And then when they tried to trick Him again, He said, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. So if we follow the principle that He set for us in His Bible and His greatest commandment, we don't have to worry about being perfect. He was the only perfect one that he says, love me first and love your neighbor. And that neighbor includes even the people that loot and riot and don't love him and are against us. And when we do that, then we will truly see what he can do in our hearts and our lives.
Well, Becky, I want to thank you for being with us. We got a few seconds before we got to close today.
JW,
yes.
Before we close, the children wanted me to bring some treats. I told them where I was coming, and this is a young girl who was actually a Sunshine Kid about 12 years ago made these this year, and we made a verse to go with it that says, call me, in Jeremiah. Call to me and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things which you do not know. This is for you.
Thank you.
And we have two for Chris and Mitchell, and we want you to know God has called you. We believe that to do this, and we thank you for We Should Know.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you again next week. And remember, please contact us. Let us know what you thought. And as always, when we close, we look at you and we say, may God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.